On Highway 301 South, down from McDonald's in Jessup, Nips Car Wash features state-of-the-art IQ automatic car wash system. Every car or truck that enters the automatic IQ wash system is scanned to capture its unique vehicle profile to give you a great car wash every time. Nips Car Wash also features 2 self-service bays where you can choose from a variety of accessories such as foam brush, tire brush, bug off, wax, clear coat, and spot-free rinse with powerful blowers located in each bay to top off your car wash experience at an affordable price. For the best quality car wash around, go to the new Nips Car Wash located down from McDonald's on the left on Highway 301 South in Jessup. That's Nips Car Wash with a state-of-the-art IQ automatic wash system on Highway 301 South down from McDonald's in Jessup.
8:02 here at the Big Dog WIFO on this Friday morning. World-famous Butch and Bob Show brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply and Nips Car Wash. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning again. And once again, we just want to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day weekend. Again, big day Sunday, so happy Mother's Day to everybody out there listening. But on the Butch and Bob Show, we've got special guest candidate for Sheriff Paul Drawdy. The primary is June the 9th, but the early voting begins May 18th, which is 2 weeks from Monday. So it's here, Paul. So just got to ask you, with all this social distancing and things like that, to me it would be hard to run a campaign as far as getting out and seeing people. Fortunately, some places are opening up, so hopefully you'll be out and see some people. But I'm just curious how that's going as a candidate running for sheriff countywide without being able to see people, social distancing, things like that. How's the campaign strategy been for you?
Well, first of all, good morning, guys. Thank you for having me again. It's been harder than I thought it would be. I mean, I have to admit, a little over a month ago when we were in here and y'all had all the candidates on, and we, you and I discussed this because they had just kind of opened it up, and we had talked about how I know our campaign did and all the other candidates too were pretty much announcing they weren't going to do any more door-to-door. And I kind of thought to myself, I said, well, it's not going to be that bad. We'll make phone calls, do some social media stuff. But it really has been a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be from the standpoint of, just having to reach out to so many folks by phone. And you would rather do those, meetings in person, obviously. But we're making it work. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, you've got to kind of roll with the punches and stuff. And so that's what we're doing. I've got I shouldn't say a lot, but I've got several volunteers that are making phone calls for me, and they're reaching out to individuals in their network. And then what they'll do is if I need to follow up with a personal phone call, if folks have got questions or whatever, I'll do that. I did meet with one or two individuals where I actually went to their house, but, they knew I was coming and I stayed like out in the yard. Right. And they just had a few questions and stuff and fielded some interview type situations like that. But it's been really, really strange.
It's just a different time. Like I said, nobody's ever seen anything like this. I just wonder what the interest is. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of turnout shows up on the early voting. I know a lot of people have requested absentee ballots statewide. I have to check with Tammy and see how many people have done that locally, but just curious how are you hearing a lot of interest in the race? I mean, it is a countywide race, an important position. Got 4 people on the one party and one on the Democratic side. So I'm just curious, with everybody concerned about the COVID-19, what's the interest in this countywide election? I guess we'll find out when the early voting begins.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The interest has picked up as we get closer to it, and I think that's with all elections. The closer you get to them, people start talking more and more. The folks that kind of follow politics in general, especially on local level, they're always kind of talking and, discussing issues and stuff. But I'm seeing a lot more folks. I'm getting a lot more contacts through the website and then through people calling, reaching out on the phone and stuff, saying, hey, we'd like to meet and talk or whatever, or can we set up? I had a phone conference with a couple yesterday, and they want to actually see if they could set up a time where I could come and, and talk to them. So the interest is definitely picking up. I believe you're right in reference to the absentee ballots, because I have talked to a lot of individuals who have already, turned their absentee ballots in. So I think that's what we're going to see. And of course, probate Judge Thornton can tell us that for sure. But I think that's what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of absentee voting for sure.
I'm like you. I think the closer it gets to the early voting, like I said, I think we'll see what the interest is. But I'm sure there's a lot of races on the ballot. The presidential primaries on there as well. So June 9th is the date. So it's set in stone now. And like I said, the early voting gets underway May 18th. 3 weeks of early voting, which is always interesting to see how it turns.
I'll tell you, probably one of the, I don't mean to interrupt you, but probably one of the biggest issues that I have fielded lately is a little bit of confusion about Georgia's primary system. Georgia has an open primary system where we don't have to declare or we don't have to register as a Democrat or a Republican in the state of Georgia. It's an open primary from the standpoint you can just go into the primary and you declare. You don't register, you declare. So in this particular race, what I've seen is because there's only one candidate on the Democrat side, well, obviously he's going to be in the general election come November, no matter what, okay? So really the race is kind of on the Republican side with the 4 candidates. So what I've seen with individuals, and some have been surprised going, oh, wait a minute, when I go in, if I'm a Democrat and I go in, I'm not going to be able to vote for you 4 or any one of you 4. And so I have fielded several of those calls where I've had to explain, look, you can go in, if you typically vote Democrat, but you want a voice on the local side as far as who meets the Democrat challenger in November, then in the primary what you do is you go in and you declare a Republican ballot, vote for who you want to vote for, and then in the general election, you can once again vote for who you want to vote for. If you want to vote for the Democrat candidate, you can do that. But you need to, if you want to vote in this race, you need to declare a Republican ballot. And you can do that even if I've had a couple of individuals with an absentee ballot. They said, well, I've already, applied for an absentee ballot for the Democrat Party. I talked to Judge Thornton, and she said that any time during the early voting and on June 9th, if you take that ballot in and just turn it in and then tell them, not voted, but like turn it in blank and go, hey, I requested a Democrat ballot, but I want to vote on the Republican ballot. You just turn it into them and they'll set you up with the Republican ballot. So,
what surprised me, just being honest, it's hard to beat an incumbent.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm surprised that one of the 3 other candidates, you, Chuck, or Toby, didn't say, let me do some strategy here. I'll just register on the Democratic and go against John in November. Did anybody approach you on that party, or did that cross your mind at all? Or
no, it didn't. It didn't cross my mind. I mean, I enjoy politics, but I'm not a politician from the standpoint that I'm not going to play a game just to try to get elected. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, I literally got in the race because I feel there needs to be a change. I didn't get in the race because, well, this is the next step in my career, or I'm upset at an individual, so therefore I'm going to run against him. I didn't do any of that. I just done it because there needs to be a change. And if the voters of Wayne County feel the same way, then they'll vote for that change, whether it's me or one of the other 2 candidates that's running against the incumbent. But yeah,
like I said, I've been here a long time. I've seen politics for a long time, not just here in Wayne County, Long County, Blaine County, and I'll still stick to this statement. It's very difficult to unseat an incumbent sheriff in a small rural community, and John's been there a long time. So, that's my question to you and Chuck, and, how do you defeat the incumbent? What's the issue? Where do you, I've seen people talk about his age, which John says they're inflating his age. He's not as old as they're claiming. So I talked about, so
I don't think his age is an issue personally.
So my question is, what are the, why are 3 other people on that Republican ballot against the incumbent? What's the issue? What they just think there just needs to be a change, or just
Well, that's it. And it goes back to what I talked about when I came in a month ago, and what I've been saying since July of 2019 when I announced. And I don't know if we want to rehash my platform because we did it last month, but you can go to my website. Anybody can go to my website, pauldrawdyforsheriff.com, and look at my 6 platform issues: drugs, domestic violence, quality of life crimes, accountability, budget, and police zoning. Those are the 6 main deficiencies that I identified, drugs being at the top of that the list, that I identified that I felt the sheriff's department was deficient in. So that's why I got into the race. And now, but even before, when my wife and I started thinking about it and deciding, well, look, I mean, because of just what you said, a 4-term incumbent, but the more we talked to people, and I realized it was just people in my network, my social network, but the more we talked to them, it was like, yeah, there needs to be a change. So once we threw our hat in the ring and then was going out and doing the door-to-door, I have to be honest with you, I really thought the issue was going to be that I mean, obviously I have to get my message out, but I thought I was going to run into what you're saying a lot more. I have been surprised at how many folks have said, look, think the world of the sheriff, whatever, but yeah, it's time for a change. Because, I mean, by no means do I believe I live in a bubble. So when I see the issue in my mind of drugs not being aggressively enforced or gone after, then I don't think I'm the only one. I think other people are seeing it too. And so what they're wanting is they're wanting that change to see if, okay, well, can somebody else do a better job? And so I believe that's the case. I'm assuming that's the reason the other guys got in the race as well, is that they feel it's time for a change.
Well, with 4 people on that ballot on the Republican, the odds are there'll probably be a runoff. So do we know what the runoff date is? Is it 3 weeks after or 2 weeks? Or
yeah, I believe now, if I remember correctly, that they did not change the runoff date, so it's still in July. And it's in my phone, it's out in the truck.
I'll get with Timmy if I can get that date. But
yeah, that runoff date is supposed to be in July, and that was my strategy. Was just that I knew that Chuck was in the race, and I knew that Cameron was in the race. So, between 4 people, even between 3 people, I think it would be hard for any one to pull a majority of the vote, or the 50, 51%.
It's possible, but the odds
would
be against it.
Absolutely right.
I would think you're looking at a runoff in the Republican primary.
So my strategy all along has been just that. I mean, look, I believe there's going to be a runoff, and I also believe that the incumbent is going to be in that runoff, of course. So my strategy has always been, if I can get in a runoff with the sheriff, head to head, then I believe that I can get my folks to come back out and vote and win.
Well, again, it should be an interesting race. Again, we appreciate you coming in. The big story is down in Brunswick. Any thoughts of what's going on down there? I mean, it's national news. The governor weighed in. The thing that puzzles me is it had to go to 3 district attorneys before an arrest took place. That seems to be, what I'm trying to grasp my head around. Why did it go? I understand that the local district attorney, with people in her office and worked for it, she recused herself before any arrest was made. And it went to another DA, and then nothing was done. In fact, that DA said that he didn't see any criminal charges. And then the video gets released, and then all heck breaks loose. So, and I said, then the governor stepped in. It's interesting. The governor instructed the GBI, but the GBI already investigated, from what I understand. I mean, that's what happens on any shooting, right? I mean, local people kind of step back and the GBI comes in. And looking at the press releases, the GBI came in back when the incident occurred back in February.
Typically what happens is, the way it typically works is that the local governing jurisdiction will investigate the crime. If it's a shooting, they have to request for the GBI to come in. So they would be the ones that would request that. Now, it was my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, obviously, but it was my understanding they were never requested, that Glenn County investigated the case. They didn't file charges or press charges. The district attorney did not.
All right.
Just like you said, she recused herself and turned it over to Waycross jurisdiction. He came out and said...
Yeah, he made a statement saying that there were no... criminal charges to be filed. So,
and I should go back and say this.
And they had the video, right? I mean, the police department had the video.
Well,
all the time, right?
I'm assuming they did. Well,
right,
yeah, so. I'm sure they did. I don't know if they had it from day one, but they had it early on, I know. Because, look, I followed this from, it took place on February 23rd, if I remember correctly. I still listen to, because I worked at Glenn County PD, have a lot of friends in Glenn County owned property there at one time. So I listened to a local news talk show down there from time to time. So when it took place, I was hearing it and kind of sort of started following it. And at first, when you're just hearing witness statements or whatever from both sides, you're like, boy, that doesn't sound good at all. And my first inclination is, well, if they didn't make arrest, there must be something else going on. But then, of course, when you watch the video, you're like, are you kidding me? I mean,
the video, at the very least, just to list people listening, if you haven't seen the video, is disturbing to watch. It really is.
It is.
Another question I've got, is going to be in the GBI's having the press conference today. People were asking the person that filmed the video, is he going to be faced with any criminal charges? And
I don't know. And look, now this is just my opinion, so don't quote me on this by any means. But as this was going along in the end of February and March, and I was hearing it on the Brunswick local news, well, not only the news, but their little talk show they have down there, and folks were calling in, it came out that they were saying that there was a third person and that they had videoed it. Now, to me, the way they made it sound was that third person was maybe friends with
the McMichaels, right?
The McMichaels,
and that's what's
right.
come out.
And so,
right.
like, they were like, I don't know if they were going to help them or just were what. I don't know what they were doing, but either way, they videoed it. But that's my whole thing.
I'm just amazed at people that in these situations video. It's like the story of the football player Earl Thomas. His wife found him in a position where he was having other women in the bed, so she has a gun pointing to his head, and someone videotapes that. So it's like everything's on video nowadays. I'm like, it's crazy. I'm like, why is this guy videotaping this? Why isn't the guy calling the police saying, look, you need to come? What's he doing videotaping it? I'm just having a hard. That's what I'm.
Look, I'm with you.
It's like I tell people all the time: don't hit send. Don't video. Call somebody.
I often hold myself to the reasonable. I hold myself and others to the reasonable man standard. What would a reasonable person do in a situation? And I can't comprehend that either. That when a traumatic event is going on, that my first response is take out my phone and start my video. Just as the same as I told you earlier. I can't imagine sitting in my driveway and going, hey, that looks like a burglary suspect. Get your gun, boys. Who thinks like that?
Right, just
now, people do. Right. People do think like that, and I realize that from all my years in law enforcement. I know people think like that. But I don't understand it.
Well, apparently he didn't know.
No sense
it wasn't like he didn't know who the police were because he used to work for the police department. All you got to do is call the police.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look, it's disturbing.
It's disturbing, but like I said, it's due process. It'll play out in court, but it's just a lot of questions are being asked. Why? Because once you see the video, you're like, why? But we've had incidents here in Wayne County where you ask the same questions. Why wasn't somebody arrested? Why did it take so long? So.
Well,
it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. So
that's exactly right. We've seen it here, and not on the same level, I think, obviously, but just like you're saying, we've seen it where you ask those questions. Well, I don't understand why, because look, maybe they didn't have video in those circumstances or whatever. But anyway. So
what's the plan? Like I said we're 2 weeks away from early voting. So what do you, as a candidate for sheriff, what are you doing now since things are opening up? Are you getting around and seeing more people, or how's that going? And
I have been.
You said the chamber's doing a forum.
The chamber. I got a text message from Chamber Director Bennett yesterday, and I think this Thursday the 14th at 3:00. What they're going to do is they're going to have the candidates come in, and they're going to. I'm not sure if they're going to have one. They're going to have a moderator, obviously, but I don't know if it's going to be a panel or whatever. But I think their governmental affairs committee has come up with the list of questions that they're going to pose to the candidates. They're going to film it, and then I believe probably post it on social media is what they're going to do, is what their plans are.
There's not going to be any people coming to the...
Yeah, that's my understanding. They're not going to have an audience or anything like that because of the whole social distancing thing. And that's... I was talking to an individual the other day, and we were talking about, are you going to start up your door-to-door? And I'm like... I still don't... Especially at this present time, I don't feel comfortable with that. From the standpoint... look, I'm a healthy individual. I run and work out just about every day. So, obviously I feel like, but I haven't been tested. So, I could easily be an asymptomatic carrier, and the last thing I would want is to go to 100 houses in the city of Jessup, and everybody finds out Paul Drawdy spread that thing. So,
I understand.
So I don't think I'm going to do that. I think we're going to continue on with our social media. We're definitely going to continue on with the ads. Look, I can't thank y'all enough for having the candidates back in for this second round, because, I mean, listen, and not only for myself, I can't tell you how many people that I cold called and said, hey, this is Paul Drawdy, candidate for sheriff. Would appreciate your vote. Yeah, we went and listened to the interviews. I mean, that was their response. You know what I'm saying? So in this weird situation that we're in where the candidates can't get out and have a public forum, I mean, what y'all have done is literally the next best thing. And so, I've got
that's the good thing. Like I say, Jonathan posts these shows after they're done, so people go back and listen to them. Before I let you go, we're just assuming everybody out there listening knows who Paul Drawdy is. And I know who Paul Drawdy is, but for those out there listening that may not know who Paul, talk about your background in law enforcement and let people know who Paul Drawdy is. Because like I said, we got listeners all over, but there's people that move in all the time that don't know who these people. We just assume, since we've known each other so long, that everybody knows who Paul Drawdy is. But for those out there that don't know who Paul Drawdy is and they're trying to decide who they're going to vote for, just go do that real quick, your background in law enforcement and why you're running for sheriff.
Yeah. Graduated Wayne County High School, 1983. Enlisted on the delayed entry program, United States Marine Corps. Went to Parris Island for boot camp, served 4 years in the Marines, come back and got into law enforcement at that standpoint. I was initially hired on with Glenn County PD. I was on their DUI task force, their speed enforcement. I was on their SWAT team. We were nationally ranked in 1990 as 11th best SWAT team in the nation. I've worked with and trained with the FBI hostage rescue team. I've worked on several task forces with the DEA, the ATF, went to ATF undercover narcotics school. Worked with the FBI on several cases in reference to, I know the Harris, this is back in 93 when Carl Harris, he had killed, he was, they basically had him listed as a serial killer because he had killed 3 individuals over a time period of July of 93 till November of 93. And they suspected him in others from, I think he was from Baltimore or somewhere. But anyway, received a commendation for working on that homicide task force when we caught him and put him in prison. I worked there in Glenn County, was a corporal, worked, like I said, undercover narcotics, worked as a drug investigator for Glenn County Metro Task Force, was chief of police in Scriven for 3 years, and also worked as a drug investigator for Wayne County back in, I think it was 98, I believe. After that, I transitioned from my law enforcement career into private business. I've ran 3 successful businesses. And so I think, when it comes to experience, it's not just a matter of having seat time. It's having the ability, one, to be successful in anything you do. And I think that's what I bring to the table. My experience is unique from the standpoint that I've got that business background, so I can look at the administrative side of the house and kind of determine what needs the best practices that need to be put in place. Obviously, I have that law enforcement side. So I believe that experience, and I should add that I'll sit on the Wayne County School Board. I won 2 elections as a school board member, so obviously I'm used to large budgets. But all of that together that I've accomplished through the years is going to bring a unique approach to the sheriff's office and kind of maybe changing that culture and just going in a different direction that I think that Wayne County is wanting at this time.
Okay, again, we appreciate you coming back in. I think we got Chuck Mosley. I know I got Chuck Mosley a week from today coming in, and then John after that. So, again, trying to get everybody in for the second go-round. But, again, the early voting gets underway Monday, May 18th. That's 2 weeks from this coming Monday. June 9th is the primary. We'll continue to follow the election closely. Wish you the best of luck. Appreciate you coming in, and appreciate your time. And
I'm excited.
And that'll do it for for Friday is Butch and Bob Show. But before we go again, just want to wish everybody out there a happy Mother's Day weekend.
Wasn't it Ralph Kiner on Father's Day who said to all you fathers out there on Father's Day, happy birthday?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Good morning from the Big Dog, 826, world-famous Butch and Bob Show on WIFO, brought to you by Nips Car Wash and Murphy Builder Supply. 826, update from Fox News Radio up next on the Big Dog.
Drive forward, straight to Woody Folsom.